What's up, guys? Welcome to Waggle Friends English. And today we have a special treat because we have Em from English with Em with us today. And we're going to talk about British and American English.
So, Em, tell us one about your accent and tell us two, how does that, do you think, impact how you teach English?
My accent is known as modern received pronunciation, which is common in the south of England. It used to be considered kind of like the British accent. It was the BBC English. I don't think that's really the case anymore, though. There's a lot more recognition now for the fact that there are many different accents within the UK. So mine is just one of them. In terms of how it affects how I teach, well, I mean, that's a good question. I think it's a clear accent. Gotta
Yes.
say, I do think it's a clear accent. And people often tell me that they like how clear I sound. So I'd say that's an advantage, I guess, of this particular accent is that it is quite clear.
Are there any accents that you grew up around that you were like, I don't understand what they're saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In fact, one incident always comes to mind when I first started university and I moved into a student house. So there were 10 of us in this. Well, actually, no, that was the first year there were, I think, 6 of us in that student house. And I met my housemates. And one of them, Eleanor, she just started chatting away. And I looked at her like, oh no. And I couldn't understand anything that she was saying. It was horrendous. My dad had to translate for me. And I was mortified. I thought she's either going to think that I'm really rude or really stupid, neither of which is good. And it's actually English, but she grew up in Wales. So she had a Welsh accent,
Oh.
speaks really fast. So that combination, I was like, oh my God.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with people that have different accents? I mean, even if it was just one lady in your dorm, how did you navigate having a context with different accents?
I guess I just got used to it. And then, funnily enough, I think 1 or 2 years later, we got a new housemate, Martin, who was also Welsh, but from a different part of Wales. And I struggled with that too. And sometimes he would say to me, Em, you have no idea what I just said, do you? And I'm like, I'm sorry, no. Yeah, how did I deal with it? You just have to ask, basically. Just got to ask. Sorry, I didn't understand that. Can you say it
Yeah.
again?
That is so fascinating. Like in America, we have, I don't, you probably already heard the joke of Americans being monolingual, right? A person with three languages is called trilingual, a person with two languages is called bilingual, and then a person with one language is called American because we have so few accents around us. I mean, we do. We have New York, Boston, we have California, we have the southern, like in the southern America, but by and large, it's not as
Complicated.
diversified and complicated as what we
Hmm.
hear in British English. And so for me, I always find it amazing that you can pop over to a different town, just, not too far and hear a different accent. I heard a story of a guy one time that was like, I forgot his name, but he could pinpoint where you live down to the town in England based on the accent. But I don't think you could do that here in America since it'd be so many towns that you would have to
You could get
choose from.
you
You
could
can
get
get close. You
regions. You
can
could
get
get regions.
regions, but you couldn't choose like an exact town. There's no way you could get that. But I mean, obviously that's maybe a slight hyperbole, but accents are always fascinating because I'm not going to say it's like a different language, but sometimes when you're dealing with a person that's from, you know, deep Welsh roots, it can sound very much like a foreign language.
For sure, yeah. And yeah, given the size of the UK, the number of accents, yeah, it is crazy. It can be difficult. Like, I remember another occasion speaking on the phone. It was at the bank, a call center, and based in Scotland. If you get a really broad Scottish accent, yeah, I struggled with that too. And my driving instructor was from Northern Ireland, so that was
Oh, it's another one. My
also, and I
goodness.
understood
That
him.
having a stressful situation of trying to learn how to drive a car, and you're like, I just don't know what you're saying right now.
It wasn't too bad with him, but like I was in school with his daughter, so occasionally I would go around to his house and his wife. I really struggled to understand Dorothy. God bless her. I really struggled to understand Dorothy. Like it was hard. I'd just smile and nod. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, the
That's
penguins of Madagascar. Smile and wave,
A
boys.
smile
yeah.
and wave. it's very much like the strategies that you do that we all do, right? When we encounter a foreign language, right? When we were living in Asia, when you were living in Asia, and it was like, I mean, I know a little, but this is not comprehensible input at this point, and we have to have these clarification phrases. We have to just deal with the embarrassment. We have to have the polite
Smile
that's
and nod.
smile and nod, like okay, okay, and then it's just that's wild to me that you're doing it with just another
English.
native English speaker.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nuts, isn't it? And it's all about exposure, of course. Like, the expression know your enemy comes to mind. If you struggle with something, if it's hard for you, like understanding a particular accent, the worst thing you can do is to avoid it. You need to like immerse yourself in it as much as possible. Like, I worked with a Spanish company who got taken over by a US company, by McKinsey, a big US company. And their day-to-day was switching to 100% English kind of after a year, kind of after the merger, so that they had to get used to it. And I used to ask them, who do you struggle the most to understand, like of your colleagues? And there were two that stood out. It was the native Indian speakers and also the Texans. No, in fact, there were three. There was a British guy as well. So there was the Texan, the Indian, and the Brit.
That's awesome. That's just so great.
I mean, a deep Southern Texas accent. Like Texas Southern accents are very different than Ozark Southern accents, which is where we're around. And then other deep South areas. It's like, yeah, I can understand. There's some deep draws, and sometimes the draw is helpful to non-native speakers because it slows down. It slows everything down. But other times it's like, what did you just do? Something, you changed the vowel somehow, and now I'm not sure exactly what you said.
Whole different vocabulary sets.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it's challenging. So
Idioms.
oh, idioms are classic ones.
Southerner idioms. We use way too many idioms in the South.
So for you, when you're in that context, when you're literally the goal is to learn English, you're working with them and you're trying to help them out, like you have all these different accents. And one of the questions that we always get from our students is, do I go for an accent? Do I go for one accent? Or do I need to be fluent in Texan as well as British, as well as Indian English? Like, how does that impact my learning ability?
Okay. So, I mean, when it comes to comprehension, you just need to get as much exposure as possible. And like with the Indian English, there are guys on YouTube with videos that point out the features of the accent, which are really interesting, actually. So I kind of point them in that direction. I'm like, you got to watch these. TED Talks is another great resource, because you can choose the nationality of the speaker. You can even look for specific regions. So get as much listening practice as you can. When it comes to choosing your own accent, I would say it depends entirely on your goals. So I teach a lot of exam preparation, Cambridge exams, and it will affect your pronunciation mark if you're chopping and changing. You should be consistent. I mean, at B1, it's not so important, but if you're at a higher level, consistency matters. The same with your spelling. So you do want to pick one if that's your goal. And it doesn't matter which.
As long as you're consistent. See, that's
Exactly.
fascinating from the test standpoint. The TOEFL exam, which is more popular than IELTS or the Cambridge exam here in the States, does not seem to care so much about the accent. As long as you are clear, it's articulation that matters more. Just make sure you're not mumbling, make sure it's comprehensible, whatever you're saying. But if your vowels are kind of all over the place, you're switching a little bit, it doesn't seem to bother the test very much. Now, that could be a detriment if your job is leading trainings online, right? Because if your vowels are all over the place, it's a little bit tricky. Consistency would be your friend there for sure. But if you're just trying to live and do normal things in America, for the most part, it's okay. But once you get into leadership positions or you're doing more online or over the phone communication, having a consistent accent is definitely helpful. Would you say the Cambridge test would punish you for having like your own accent?
No.
Yeah. No, yeah, I wouldn't think so either. I wouldn't know how they would even do that, honestly, if they wanted to.
Like if you're kind of at the C2 level, if you're doing the proficiency exam and there's a lot of interference from your native accent,
Yes.
then yeah, that might affect your mark. But your native accent being evident, not at all. I mean,
Right.
and this is something I always say to my students: you do not need to lose your accent. There's nothing wrong with speaking English and retaining your native accent. That's absolutely fine. It doesn't sound bad.
It's part of your expression in a way, like
yes,
you
who
know,
you are.
who you are. Yeah.
Like, in fact, at lower levels, I think it's fine if you really want to acquire a British or a US accent. That's fine. But if you try to do that at a lower level and you get it wrong, it can just sound quite bad, actually. So you're kind of better off until you're reaching that higher level, and unless you can get it right, I would say don't focus too much on that. Just focus on clarity. Is what you're saying clear? Is it intelligible? Can it be understood? That's what matters more than anything else.
Absolutely.
So I have one final question, a nagging question I've always wanted to ask, and here I am going to ask it. What do British speakers, specifically you, think when you hear the American accent, or when you have heard it in the past? Is there a thought, is there a feeling you have? I can start by saying that Americans generally think that the British accent sounds beautiful. There's even memes to show how beautiful it sounds, like to how interesting and unique. And we always think other things sound unique, Australian English and South African English. But particularly, there's this idea of like British English sounds refined. It sounds official. It sounds
particularly your accent, right?
Right.
This is like Emma Watson and Benedict Cumberbatch,
Right.
that kind of level, that modern, refined British accent. Americans are very much drawn to it in many ways.
Yes.
But I don't know that it would be the same coming back this way.
Yeah, like an American would just want a British speaker to read a book, and they would just sit there listening to them like, oh, that's so cool that they sound like that. That's so neat. But I don't know, obviously I don't know if it's comes back this way, especially with the prevalence of the American entertainment industry.
No, not really. I don't think so. Although, I mean, everyone has their own preferences, don't they, when it comes to accent? Like, a lot of English people are obsessed with the Irish accent. They think that's really beautiful. Yeah, I don't know. An American accent, it would depend on where it was from. And I don't know enough. Like, I could recognize a New York accent, and I think I could recognize a Texan accent, but that's probably about it. Like, for all the rest, I'd be like, that's an American accent, but I don't know where from. And I quite like it. Like, when women will say, oh, I like a man with a I like a guy with an American accent. Why not?
I love it. It's been so standardized here. We've had TV a very predominant part of the American household since the 1950s. So radio before that. So really standardizing the American accent has happened quite extensively. You can definitely find different accents in all 50 states, but specifically dialects are very different in place to place. And most Americans can pick it up pretty easily. Driving around, doing road trips is a very big part of our culture. We definitely hear differences at different gas stations along the way. But I do think it's fascinating that Americans are just enamored with Australian accents or British accents or just anywhere else, really, to be honest.
Anywhere else.
It's probably because we listen to so much of our own media that anything else is just lovely.
Yeah, that's probably true. Like, we have a Bluey. I don't know if you've seen Bluey, but we love Bluey. I watch Bluey as an adult just because it's so cool.
What is Bluey?
My goodness. It's an Australian cartoon TV show for kids. Totally directed towards the kids, but it's very good. And I actually highly recommend anybody who's trying to learn English. They do lots of fun, crazy things. It's like a kids TV show, but it's not like it's not cheesy.
It's for the parents.
It's probably for the parents. Very, very good. They use Australian English, and it's beautiful. I watch it and I'm like, I am entertained, even though this is a child show, because it's just so fun to listen to. So
well, we grew up in the UK with Australian soap operas like Neighbours and Home and Away, so we were very much familiar with the Aussie accent, and people like Kylie Minogue and Jason Donovan.
I love that.
I get a lot of comments on my channel from people saying that they like listening to my voice, which came as a great surprise to me at first, because I've always hated listening to it. When you're like school language teacher would record you and then make you watch it back, and it was like torture.
Yes.
Yeah. The people say they like it. For that reason, I started a second YouTube channel, which is Classics with M, where I read classic literature, short stories. So if you do enjoy listening to British people read stuff, then check it out.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll put the link to
Shameless
that.
plug.
I was
Yes.
just about to ask if you had some sort of podcast or audio thing, because it does. It's literally an American would just love to listen to that playing in the background. And so that's really cool. That's really awesome.
Yes. I love that you did that. I love that you took the comments and you actually did that. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as you might think either, my goodness, because when you're reading something like, I just finished reading The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes.
That's a tough one because the sentences are like paragraphs.
Yes.
And you have to breathe.
Yes.
Recording it now, it's going to take me a long time to edit that together because each sentence has lots of pauses where I'm like recovering the previous frame.
Yes, we just finished teaching through an American short story course, and it's true. Like you get back there, especially 1860s to 1890s, the sentences are so long. And it's just like specifically The Lady or the Tiger stands out.
Oh, I read that one.
Yeah, so it's like it's big words too, like it's long sentences and it's great. It's beautifully written, but to read it out loud is so difficult.
Yes. I enjoyed it though. I thought it was a cool story.
Yes. Yes. Do you think it was The Lady or the Tiger?
Oh, definitely the tiger.
I think so
My
too.
goodness.
That was my vote as
Sure.
he emphasized that she was a semi-barbaric princess too many times. So
Exactly, yeah. And I think, I mean, she would think that she was doing him a favor as well, I guess.
yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure she would be being altruistic, actually. I think she could not stomach seeing, because she mentioned about how, she thought there were these glances or whatever between them and jealousy. Those who commented, everyone said the tiger. So a bunch of pessimists or kind of a cynical bunch.
Yeah.
There you go. It's hard not to be painted her character, but it is what it is. I love that. We'll definitely put the link to that below.
And thank you so much for getting on this video for us. We love that. Not only just because it's talking about accents and something to do with English, but because your channel is so special and we love listening to the phrasal verbs because we do the phrasal verbs. So if you guys are watching this right now and you're wondering what's the difference between some American and British phrasal verbs, you should hop right over to M's channel because she breaks down a lot of British phrasal verbs, and you can check out our video that we did as a collaboration with her.
Also, if you want some more accent training, definitely listen to her Classics with M channel as well.
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Em, for joining us, and I hope that everyone here has enjoyed it as much as I have.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.